Hi, my name is Kent Jacobs. I'm Director of Advanced Applications here at FLYHT. I'd like to welcome you to our Q2 results update. First off, in Q2, we raised $4.1 million through our private placement. In the second quarter, we also had our first AFIRS 228 Bravo installations. These are operating on 3 different companies around the world, and we're generating revenue from these aircraft. We also shipped AFIRS kits to NetJets Europe. The contract with NetJets is for all 30 of their Hawker aircraft. We are working on our EASA STC supplemental type certificate for the Hawker aircraft so that as soon as we receive it, we can put the AFIRS units into these aircraft and generate revenue from that contract. FLYHT is also working on an investor relations plan. To that end, I attended a conference in the Okanagan last week. At that conference, I was able to meet 20 different finance groups and had the opportunity to get our investment strategy out to the industry. We also had signed 3 contracts during the quarter. The biggest one was with L3 Aviation Recorders. This is to provide the AFIRS 228S to L3 for installation with an OEM. It's great for us to continue working with L3. We're excited to keep this opportunity going. We also signed a safety management system dashboard contract with the Nigerian government. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has been working with FLYHT for the last 2 years to keep improving the safety situation in Nigeria. And finally, we signed our 9th Canadian customer. It's a pleasure to keep working with Canadian companies that are closer to home. Now I'd like to pass it off to Tom French, our CFO, who will give you some of the financial updates.
Thank you, Kent. Now we'll discuss the 2012 Q2 results. Our cash position was augmented in the quarter with the closing of $3.2 million of the final $4.15 million private placement. We would like to take this time to recognize everyone who participated in the placement, especially many of our long-time supportive investors. Now moving on to discuss the revenue for the quarter, there was a 22% increase from the second quarter of 2011 and a 45% increase from the first quarter of this year. This increase over 2011 is a result of increased AFIRS uptime sales. Revenue sources vary quarterly, along with the gross margin, depending on the revenue mix for that quarter. Revenue is also up $277,000 year to date, or 12%. That increase is primarily uptime sales at 32%, AFIRS usage at 4%, and services at 16%. Now we'll move on to discuss expenses. While we saw growth in revenue for the quarter, we also saw minor increases in expenses. The largest increase under the distribution expense category was travel, which was related to increased sales activities. Under the administration category, the increase was a result of increase in both salaries and stock-based compensation. The salary increase was a result of production staff that were added in late 2011 to meet production requirements in the future. The increase in share-based compensation was due to higher valuations than in 2011. Other administration expenses decreased during the quarter. If the Scientific Research and Experimental Development credit, also known as SHRED, is removed from the calculation, the R&D expenses would have decreased over the second quarter of 2011. That decrease is attributed to the reduction in contract labor. The SHRED credit was received in the second quarter of 2011, however has not yet been received in 2012. The receipt of those funds is dependent on Canada Revenue Agency's review process and timing, and is out of the control of FLYHT. The rest of the reduction is the result of decreased contract labor, which was partially offset by an increase in internal labor that was required to replace the contractors, but at an overall lower cost. Now we'll move on to revenue recognition. As previously presented in the MD&A and on these calls, our revenue recognition involves accounting for customer funds received prior to shipment as deposits, then as unearned revenue once the shipment has occurred, and then as revenue once the customer is installed and is using a functional AFIRS unit. Customer deposits and unearned revenue are considered liabilities on the statement of financial position until the customer installs the unit. We feel it is important to highlight these movements between the 3 classifications. During the second quarter, deposits for 26 kits were received versus 4 in 2011, and year-to-date deposits was for 43 kits versus 10 in 2011. For unearned revenue, 12 kits were recognized in revenue versus 9 in 2011, with year-to-date being 19 versus 15 in 2011. The number of AFIRS units that moved to recognized revenue were also higher than in 2011 due to more customers turning on AFIRS units. This slide shows the financial summary and the issued and outstanding shares after the final tranche placement on July 4th. Please tune into our conference call Wednesday, August the 8th at 3 p.m. Mountain Time or 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The call details are on the screen and the recording of the call will be available online. Thank you.